Hey, welcome to the Sharpe Way show. So happy that you guys have come here this evening, 7 p.m. Yes, on the East Coast. So guess what? It's me. I'm here. You got to look at me, of course, talking my trash as I always do. I hope you guys will enjoy what I have to say this evening. If not, tell me. This is the Ask Me Anything Monday. So you can ask me, Larry, why are you so boring tonight? Or whatever you might think. And as always, as we get started, I do ask, please like, comment, share. I know you hear it all the time. I keep saying it. I'm hoping you guys get into the habit. Just once I get on, click something, do something. We got to get those algorithms going so we can get past this media blockade, this media blackout that we are often up against. And then we let people know that we're out here doing stuff that matters. At least I hope that matters. So it is Monday. It is Ask Me Anything. And there's a piece I want to start with this if I could. And I always start this with something that I think is a relatively important or interesting piece to get this conversation started. And today, it's Myanmar. For those of you who don't know, Myanmar recently had another military coup. Like, surprise. But yes, another military coup in Myanmar. Myanmar, for those of you who don't know, used to be called Burma. It used to be a British colony, late 19th century till around 1940s. It was a British colony. Now, the problem with Myanmar is a similar problem to many post-colonial Asian and African nations. When the British, French, insert nation left, they left very bad institutions. They left no real way, no decent government, nothing. Now, there are some exceptions, obviously. India is an exception, which includes Pakistan, obviously, and Bangladesh, because they were all one country at the time when the British left. So there are some South Africa, some differences here or there. But as a general rule, most of these, post-colonial nations were nation states created because Europeans decided this is what I want a country to be. And then they left whatever they could leave as their legacy. And in many cases, it wasn't a very good legacy. Myanmar, no difference, right? No difference. It has been a terrible legacy. And what they usually leave behind is the concept of democracy with an iron fist. That's what most of the time is left behind. And most of the people who in these nations trying to become modern nations decide, you know what? I want to be a modern nation, so I'm going to act like the modern countries, and I'm going to have a military, and I'm going to try to create some type of democracy. Well, the problem with forcing democracy, and we see it all over when we try to force it in Iraq or force it in Afghanistan, if democracy doesn't come naturally from your culture, not only do you not have a culture of democracy, but you also don't have the institutions that are required for democracy to work well. Luckily, in America, we had institutions. We had literally town hall meetings and gatherings. And, we had ideas. The British had the Magna Carta. Like, we had ideas. France had, Rousseau. And is that right? Did I get it right? Yeah. But all those guys, who were talking about it and such. So we had all these things that we were growing and building to create democracy. Institutions that people, believed in and such. A lot of these nations didn't have that. If they had anything close to that, it was controlled by whoever the colonizers were. So what they wound up happening, in many cases, is weak democracies. Now, there's a saying. You might say, well, wait a minute, Larry. Democracies don't war on each other. Yeah, that's a story that we tell ourselves to make us feel good. Democracies war on each other all the time. All the time. For those of you who don't know, Japan in World War II was a democracy. The worst thing you have, the worst type of nation, is a broken democracy. Because that means mob rule. That's the worst. When it comes to war, that is, right? Because Japan was a democracy during World War II. Some of you may or may not know this. It was a broken democracy. Their constitution was a disaster. And I won't go too deep, but some of you will get this. In Japan, the constitution was so bad that if the military didn't provide the government with a war minister, a minister of war, the government would fall. That's how bad it was. The government would just fall. No government. So the military, by default, took over the government of Japan because it controlled it via a mistake in the constitution. And because they had no They had no culture of this. There weren't enough people to go, oh, we should change. Didn't work. And literally we get Imperial Japan from that. Germany, Nazi Germany was democracy. It was the Weimar Republic from after World War I. Another broken democracy. Broken democracy gets us Nazis. Turkey, today, democracy. Yes, broken democracy yet again and again and again. Broken democracies are a problem. Myanmar, prior to about a week ago, democracy. Broken democracies. Broken democracies are a big problem in this world. Myanmar is just the most recent one. As democracies break, mob rule becomes the answer, and people very often decide to look at the one institution that most people trust, the military. Whatever country you're in, you tend to, not everyone obviously, but you tend to trust your military because usually it's drafted or taken from volunteers from your own people. Usually the military is not an elite fighting force anymore. That's back in the days of the king. That might have been true here. They were knights and things of that sort, samurai, that type of stuff. But today, the military is usually taken from your towns and villages and states and cities, and it tends to be an institution that you trust. So when things collapse, here's the military. Happened in Japan, Germany, Turkey, now Myanmar. Now, why do we care about that kind of thing? Because there are a lot of broken democracies, tons of them. Belarus. I mean, I could just keep naming them, right? There's so many of them. And a lot of our democracies are now starting to struggle, particularly if they're newer democracies. One of the advantages that the British have is their idea or concept of democracy is really old. So that's an advantage, I guess. But still, even theirs might fall or become weak. And if it becomes weak, we struggle. We are struggling in our democracy. Ours is starting to become broken. We're in trouble. That's the biggest issue. We are in trouble. And you know it as well as I do. This democracy is in trouble. Broken democracies, things don't end well. They don't end well. They end with a strong man. Sometimes one, but almost always strong man. Right? They end with a strong man. That's what happens. Or they end in socialism, or both. Either a strong man or socialism, or both. They're just different ways to dictatorship. I mean, they're two different paths. The socialism one feels nicer because, like, we're given free stuff. So it feels nicer, but it still goes to strongman dictatorship. The other one just goes kind of right to it. But still, it's faster, more efficient to get right to it. But, one just feels nicer. But it's the same thing. It ends in dictatorship. The democracy begins to fail, even though officially it's a democracy. So we have to worry about this now. You might say, well, Larry, how in the world are we going to fix this? How can we fix this? How can we fix all these things? Well, let me tell you, it may not seem obvious, but oh my God, to me it is. To me, it absolutely is. Trade, 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 commerce, commerce, commerce. Commerce and trade and commerce and trade and commerce and trade. So the first thing is trade. The second thing is trade. The third thing is trade. The fourth thing is commerce. And the fifth through 4,000th thing is commerce. The more we do that, the more people are taking their energies and putting it into that instead. Now, is that a cure-all? No, it's not a panacea. It isn't. And I'm joking when I say the 4,000. It's not a panacea. But it, without question, is the first step to moving everything forward. It's the first step. As people begin to grow themselves and have more to lose. Remember the book 1984? Perpetual War? Perpetual war is when everyone's always poor and just having a scarcity mindset. I've got to hold on to this. If I just hold on, he'll protect me from losing what I have now. Scarcity mindset comes from broken cultures and broken democracies, which means I need a strong man, military protect me, which means war. Not just that every single military run nation is run poorly, it's run by the military, and then always requires conquest to keep growing. Yes, that's why they invade neighbors. Yes, it requires conquest to keep growing. That's kind of how that works, or begins to collapse itself. Commerce. This is our time. Right now, this is our time. You want to help these democracies? You want to help culture across the world? It is time right now for the United States to end all trade embargoes. Every one of them. We got them in Cuba and Iran and North Korea, Syria, Sudan, Venezuela, I think maybe a couple other countries. Tons of them. End them all. Within the next 6 months, end all of them. Just boom, 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 end it. Say, hey, none. No embargo. You want to trade? Trade. You don't want to trade? Don't trade. But it's open. We are not going to stop you at all. Step one, end all trade embargoes. Why? Because it gets us rethinking. We're recovering from COVID right now. We're recovering from the COVID response, the government's response to COVID right now. So I have an idea. Open up 6 or 7 new countries to trade. Boy, will that get some people thinking. That'll get some people thinking, how the hell do I trade whatever, corn into North Korea or whatever is the thing? How do I trade vacuum cleaners in Iran? Whatever is the thing of the day. Boy, will that get people thinking. That'll get new ideas. That'll get us thinking, how do we open this up over there? Yeah, it will. Yes, it will. It'll get them thinking, maybe I don't want to be mad and bomb America. Maybe instead I want to trade with them and make some money. Maybe I want to grow a middle class. The biggest defense against a military takeover, a junta, whatever it is, the biggest defense against any strongman leadership is a strong middle class. Biggest defense. You want a strong democracy? Strong middle class. Every single time. That's like 100%. Every time. Strong middle class equals strong democracy. More broken, less democracy. That's how that works. Every single time. So how about we start doing that? Build some middle class. Build it throughout the entire world, including our country. End the trade embargoes now. But Larry, they may not end it against us or they're bad guys. How about we stop trying to be righteous and shake our fist at people? Instead, be really righteous. Stop punishing them. Is the average North Korean or the average, Sudanese person or the average, Cuban, are they trying to hurt us in some way, shape, or form? No, their governments are. So what? Why are we punishing the people? Why are we punishing the people? If we want to really be righteous, let them buy our stuff. Let's buy their stuff. You want to really be righteous? Let's do that. Here's my argument, and I will always say it. Our culture of freedom is stronger than any bomb we will ever make. Stronger than any bomb we will ever drop. Stronger than any military invasion we could ever mount. Our culture of freedom is super powerful. It is powerful. Why don't we use that instead? We've been embargoing the 6 or 7 or 8 countries I've just mentioned for how many decades? Has it worked? No, it's been failing for decades. I have an idea. Try to end the embargoes for just 1 decade. Not like 8. Just 1 decade. End the embargoes. See what happens. If I'm wrong, slap him back on. Fine, slap him back on. Larry Sharpe was wrong. If I'm right, win-win. But I'm going to go further than that. I'm not done. We should end all sanctions. Now, all of them. Every single sanction. End it within the next 6 months. Russia, Belarus, Myanmar, Zimbabwe. We have sanctions on all kinds. Liberia. I've forgotten half the countries we have. Yemen. We have sanctions on, 20 countries. I'm not sure. It's something like that. It's a lot of countries. End them. But we can't have these evil people spending their money. Why? Did all of a sudden terrorism stop? Did all of a sudden these states now became awesome states that take care of their people? No, it doesn't work. It is us trying to be righteous, saying we're going to punish them. And the only people we're punishing are the average guy or gal on the street in both their country and ours. That's who we're punishing. The average everyday person in their country and ours. Their elites are doing just fine. Their elites are still in the palaces, doing just fine, still being warlords. They're doing just fine. And so are our elites, doing just fine. Who's in trouble? Their man and woman on the street and ours. End the sanctions right away. Right away. But Larry, then they might not end sanctions against us. So what? If their middle class grows, they will put pressure upon their government to end it too. That's how that works. If our middle class will pressure us, then theirs will pressure them. That's how that works. Someone has to say stop. At one point, someone has to be the better person. Ronald Reagan said we're the city, the shining city on the hill. All right, I'll buy that. Let's be that. Let's be that. Jesus said, turn the other cheek. Turn it. I'm in. Let's do it. Gandhi, an eye for an eye and we all go blind. I don't want to go blind. Let's all see. Let it go. Let it go. What's the worst that happens? They're still crappy countries? That's the worst. They still do bad things? That's the worst that happens. But we might get something and their people might. I'm going to go one step further. End all tariffs. Every one of them. We have tariffs against the EU, tariffs against China, Mexico, all kind of stuff. Metals and machines and cosmetics and food and all kind of stuff. End all of them. End them. 6 months. You got 6 months to get it till, hey, it's done. End it. But Larry, they won't end tariffs against us. So I would like to trade. I would like more entrepreneurs. We've been devastated by the government response to COVID, and we still want to be righteous and shake our fists at these evil, well, tariff them. No, I want us to buy and sell goods so that we can make some money, so these entrepreneurs can get back on their feet, so we can make some jobs, so we can grow, but more importantly, so we can talk to each other. I would like that. I would like us to talk to each other again. End all of them on every single thing unilaterally. But Larry, they're going to have a trade war against us. Well, they're going to beat us as we're trading. I guess they win the trade war. Who wins a trade war? Nobody. Nobody wins a trade war. Nobody does. Let's not do that. It's trade. Give them what they want. We'll take what we want and move on. They want to tariff us. They tariff us. Good. Let them. I don't care. Let them. What will wind up happening is some people will get a little bit. And they go, this is good stuff. I like these American goods. This is good stuff. I want more of these. How do I get more? Oh, we can't. It's too expensive because the government puts these high tariffs on it. We should stop that. How? By pressuring our own government to stop it. And they will, because that's how it happens. Now, that won't happen tomorrow. It might not even happen in 5 years. But in 10? Yes. Larry, I got to wait 10 years. We've been waiting to 80 now. We've been waiting for 80 now. Just give me 10. So how long we been doing this with Cuba? Since 50s? North Korea, 50s? What's that? 36, 70 years. 70 years. We've been, sorry, I said 80. I'm incorrect. I apologize. 70 years, not 80. I'm wrong. 70 years. Give me 10 years. That's it. Do that and watch things change. End the trade embargoes now. End the sanctions now. And all the tariffs now. If you do that in the next 6 months, begin to end it. Watch the positive change start happening. As now things shake up. Oh my God, how do I now deal with negotiating this? How do I change the tariffs? What can I sell? What can't I sell? And watch that spur innovation, and watch that spur jobs, and watch that spur new entrepreneurship, and watch that spur new products, so that we can get ourselves out of the hole that we dug ourselves in last year. The rest of the country can be better. The rest of the world can be better. If we really want to stop acting righteous and shaking our fist against the evildoers, and instead actually be righteous and protect the people who are in trouble, the poor, the working poor, and the middle class of this country and the world. End the embargo, all of them. End the sanctions, all of them. End the tariffs, all of them, unilaterally. Just do it. Now, within the next 6 months, plan it out, all gone. Watch things grow. I know I was preaching today, but I kind of start that way often. I thought about it. I know it's the right answer. That's the way to make things better. Let me grab some comments if I can. So I'm sure some of you will be mad at me, but it's fine. I don't mind. I still love you if you're mad at me. You think I'm crazy. I appreciate that. So, all right. Sounds like Myanmar needs some freedom. Yes, absolutely, but not bombing freedom. Yes, correct. The problem, for those of you who don't realize, some of you may or may not know, in Myanmar, the woman so I get her name right, Aung San Suu Kyi. Ooh, I hope I'm saying that right. I might be messing that up. She's like I think daughter, or is it granddaughter? No, she's daughter of a previous Burmese hero. I don't remember the Aung San. He was a hero in their history. I don't remember exactly what he did before. I'm sorry, I don't remember everything about Burmese history, or I should say Myanmar history. But so she was basically hereditary. So they brought her in to kind of be a symbol to, bring the new democracy in. That was kind of originally back in like the 50s or whenever it was. Maybe it was the 80s. Maybe it was the 80s. They brought her in, and the problem is it didn't work. The military would not give up control. They've been fighting an internal civil war for, 50 years, whatever it is. So the military has been in charge most of the time. And when she tried to create democratic institutions, they put her in jail. She was in house arrest for 15 years. Then they let her out. And the problem is the country was so beholden to the military that she had to still be tight with the military. And just recently, just last year, the elections were so much in her favor. She's super popular in her country, which is why they won't execute her. If they execute her, they will make her a martyr. She will be a Jesus-like person or entity in Myanmar if they execute her. So they won't do that. So instead, they just hope that she'll die. She's like 70-something. So they're hoping she's going to die. So they just put her in her house and say, we hope you die. We're not going to kill you because we're not going to be, we're going to martyr you. And then we'll have a full-on, they'll be attacking the military at that point. So they won't do that, but she simply wasn't good enough as a leader to be able to control the military effectively. She was very motivating in that they had 80% of of their parliament, whatever they call it, the Congress there, they controlled as of last year, which means she would have had the political power to basically tell the military, we're done. We are a full democracy. But she wasn't savvy enough to take the actual actions of having the right generals, the right military members, the right senior leadership in place in the military for that to happen. And instead, the military did exactly what it could do, which is arrest all the appropriate people the day after and ensure they could take over. So they could use some freedom, I would agree. Yes. So, all right. 1 week after Trump leaves White House, CNN's rating plummeted 44%. Yeah, maybe they should be talking about Myanmar, Pete. Maybe they should. Absolutely. Maybe they should. I love that. That's good. Authoritarians use force. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So, but the issue with that is authoritarians use force, but they still need bodies to do that. And when the people say, I'm not going to do it, that's when you see things change. One of the reasons during the Tiananmen Square incident, was it 89 in China? One of the reasons why it took so long for the Chinese to crack down, there were other reasons, but one of them was they didn't want to use Chinese troops because, Jimmy, they were afraid that some of the Chinese soldiers might have said, I'm not running over these people. I'm not doing this. No, they were afraid of that. So they had to ship in Mongolian troops. True story. They shipped in Mongolian troops to put down the Beijing fight in case there was some loyalty issues. So I think that's definitely an issue. They use force, but people have to implement it. So yes. All right, let's see if I can do some of these here if I could. I've been curious on this. Do you support or not support the Vietnam War? I'm not sure what you mean. Are you saying would I have support at the time? Do I think it was the right move? Absolutely 100% not. Vietnam was a disaster. We should have never gone to Vietnam. Vietnam was another failed country. And some of you don't know this. Vietnam was a French colony. And Ho Chi Minh, who became a communist leader, was actually French educated and wanted to bring democracy, not communism, to Vietnam. He wasn't a Stalinist or a communist originally. He was a liberal Democrat. He wanted to be a democratic liberal. I mean, in the classic sense, not liberal as in liberal and conservative. I mean, the classic sense. He wanted to be a Democrat. He wanted to bring democracy. But we wouldn't listen to him because we wanted to ensure they would stay a colony. This was our colonial strength telling him, no, you will not be independent. You are a French colony. Shut up and stay a colony. And he looked around and you know who said, we'll talk to you? The Russians. We'll support you. We'll give you money. Don't you like communism? He was like, imperial rule or communism. Guess I'm a communist. That's what happened. So we screwed up Vietnam and made it a communist state. Then we fought for 10 years, lost 6,000 Americans for nothing. We lost that war. And then 20 years later, they're our trading partner. Today, you can buy stuff from Vietnam. Literally, they're our trading partner. What I just talked about now, ending trade embargoes, we ended, and now you can buy furniture from Vietnam now if you want to. So Vietnam is exactly what I was just talking about. So what we should do? Leave the Vietnamese alone. If we would have left the Vietnamese alone in the 50s, they threw the French out on their own. We walked in because the French got their butt kicked by the Vietnamese. So the French got their butt kicked, so then we stepped in. We should have said, oh, well, France, good luck with that. And said, Ho Chi Minh, my man, how are you? Let me show you what democracy is like. Let me help you out in this one. And given them a democracy. We'd have been trading partners in the 60s. We would have been trading partners in the 60s. And they wouldn't have gone communist. They would have been a bulwark against China versus being another communist state. It was a terrible idea. We should have never done it. I hope that answers your question. So, mob rule, establishment run, reverting back to monarchy, current government. Yeah, I think that's true. Good point. I would buy that. It's better, but I'd like to have an even better one. How about that? I'm with you, John. I want to go even better. Yes. So, hi, Larry. As a Burmese American, I'm glad that you are bringing attention to Myanmar military coup. I don't think the coup was foreshadowing because other countries want some type of democracy. Burmese generals want power. That's true. Yep. They have been planning this coup since late 2000s when they gave up power. I think they were ready for it, Keith. I do. I think they were hoping that things would kind of just stay the way that they could retain the status quo, with almost like a facade of other people being in power. It's one of the reasons why Suu Kyi couldn't be as aggressive as she wanted to be in making changes. I think you're right. And then finally they were like, that's it. She's about to just get rid of our power. Nope. Boom. And they stepped in. I completely agree. Thank you. But do I think it's foreshadowing? I think it can be. And what I mean by it is when democracies are teetering, when they can't be strong democracies, and it's a second piece, and you don't have strong community institutions that can step in the place of something like government or the military takes over, right? But when you have good institutions, I think it's harder for the military to step over, right? It's harder. When you have a court system that people believe in, when you have churches that people believe in, and if you ever notice, almost every time that dictators take over a nation, they either meld with the church, whatever that church is. I use church, generically, church, temple, religion. They either meld with the religion or destroy it. One of the two, right? People always go, Nazi Germany was atheist. No, it wasn't. Not at all. They merged with the church. Every single belt buckle of every German soldier in World War II literally said on it, Gott mit uns, which means God is with us. They merged the church together, right? Like Hitler was like this church-like figure, that kind of thing. Stalin was the opposite. Stalin crushed the church and communism became the religion. So you do one or the other. Nazism completely absorbed the church and Stalinism just destroyed it. So I think you find if you don't have that type of institution, whether it's church or not, I made up the idea of being church. It doesn't have to be religion, but it could be. It could be just the idea of freedom. It could be the principles that keep America strong. It could be the Second Amendment. Could be that. But principles and institutions that people keep together. It could be local charity groups. It could be the idea that you're a state. It could be the pride that Texans have. I'm very serious. It could be that. If you don't have that, you're open to violence and force taking over. So, thank you, though. All right. Erdogan admits he wants to recreate the Ottoman Empire and finish the genocide. Is horrible. Erdogan, thank you for that. Erdogan is savvier, sadly, than Suu Kyi was. Erdogan, if you remember, Adrienne, Erdogan also had to worry about a military coup because his democracy was failing also because there isn't one anymore. He absorbed the church, right? What Erdogan did is he then took the religion of Islam. He's become a fundamentalist. He wasn't. And Turkey, for those of you who don't know, during the Ottoman Empire, it was a Muslim nation, sultans, things like that. Kemal, remember his name, Mustafa Kemal, I believe was his name, and he became known as Ataturk. He was the first person who began modern Turkey in 1920. And when he took over Turkey, it was a secular state. It was based upon the military. He was a colonel, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was a colonel. He fought in World War I. He took over and said, this is it. We're going to create a democracy. And he created a democracy in a basically secular state. Not crazy secular, obviously. I mean, still people were religious, but compared to the Ottoman Empire and the sultanates before, relatively it was a secular state run by the military. And then he actually gave up power and created democracy. He's the father of modern Turkey. So as he did that, he also fought against the Greeks and crushed the Greeks. To your point, he crushed the Armenians. So he was a military guy, and he fought the Greeks in a war in 1920-21, pushed them off of islands, reinvaded Greece, had to pull back. The Europeans wouldn't let him stay, so he had to pull back after he had actually reinvaded Greece, crushed the Armenians, and he created this area, this idea of Turkey, which is a modern state secular. So now Erdogan gets into power, and he comes as a secularist. He didn't come as a religious guy. And all of a sudden, over time, he said, if I'm going to become dictator, I have to either destroy the church or merge with it. He chose merge. So now he's super Muslim, Mr. Islam. He ran the whole thing. And when the military knew this, Erdogan was savvy enough to know that he would have to put his people in the right places. Suki didn't know that. So she was taken by surprise. She thought, love will win. Yeah, it's not how that works. That's what she thought. Erdogan was savvy and thought, no, I need to have my people in the right spots. And so the coup in Turkey became a very short civil war, with his people actually winning and beating the others in a very short, relatively bloodless coup attempt. There were some people who died, and then he had mass executions. Of course, he was smart. All the people turned against him. He had them executed or put in prison. So now there's no one to stop Erdogan in his broken democracy. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, am I giving you guys history lessons? I know some of you like it, some of you don't. I apologize if I'm giving you boring history lessons, but I'm just trying to show you that, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And I don't want to rhyme here. I don't want to rhyme outside. I don't want more Erdogans. I don't want more coups. I even want all sanctions against Turkey. Get rid of them all. Get rid of all of them. Even Turkey. And Turkey's a bad place. And Erdogan is a bad person. He's a bad human being. Still, do it anyway. Because over time, if we do nothing, Erdogan is going to do that. Adrian, you know he will. No one's going to stop him. He was slaughtering Kurds, last year, 2 years ago? Slaughtering Kurds. No one's going to stop him. No one can. But if all of a sudden people care about American goods and they care about America and we go back and forth, then they'll start caring what Americans think about. They'll start caring then. Right now they don't. And the more we distance ourselves, the less they care what we think. And they should care what we think. Particularly, we have an Armenian community in America. They should care. So thank you for that. Why are members of Congress still getting paychecks? Well, aren't they? They're watching the president sign stuff. Isn't that a job? Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're watching the president sign stuff. So you're right. They probably shouldn't. Yes. He wants to oppress Armenians again. Yes, you are correct. Absolutely, Keith. That's correct. Yes, absolutely. All right. Let's see if I can do this. Off topic. All right, see. Hey, Larry, I want to ask a question off topic. Did you see the Jeep Bruce Springsteen commercial last night about reuniting the country? My hardcore liberal aunt didn't like it because of the Christian imagery. It was not all inclusive. Right wingers didn't like it because Bruce is a hardcore liberal, not a centrist. I liked it because of the message of unity. What are your thoughts? I think any attempt for Jeep to try to bring people together is a good idea. There was a lot of virtual signaling during the Super Bowl, like lots of it. So much. Some parts were cringy and just really tough. I mean, really hard. There was so much virtual signaling. But I guess if I have to pick between virtual signaling and not, I guess I'll take it. It's a tough time, Rebecca. And I don't want to fight anybody who is trying to unite. Most people actually aren't. To be forward with you, most people are saying we should unite. You guys just do what I say, and then we'll be united, right? That's what's happening now. Anyone who actually wants to unite, I'm kind of in. So was it a great commercial? No, I don't think it was. But was it one that says, look, let's keep talking about uniting. Let's actually keep talking about it. We're not doing a very good job of it. So anything that makes us talk about uniting, I'm in. I talk about it. Absolutely. Yes. Electing libertarians wouldn't hurt. I agree, Matt. Lots of them. Yes. So, all right. Larry, have you thought about offering channel memberships for YouTube channel? I haven't. I got to start thinking about that, Michael. It's a good question. I haven't focused on monetizing, but since you said that, if you guys want to, head over to Patreon. Help me out. Donate $10 if you want to. I appreciate any funding you can do. I'm still always trying to fund the show so I can be able to bring it to more and more people. So I appreciate that. But I haven't really thought much about it at all, to be forward with you. So I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I'm open to considering it. I am 100% open to considering it. So let me keep going. Let's see if I can pop a couple of these. I always love your forward-looking and positive messages, Larry. Thank you so much for representing our shared libertarian values so well. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. I am trying to make that happen. Absolutely. I have a dear friend in Syria who is Eastern Orthodox, as is my family. He survived ISIS, war, and now no future due to sanctions. Very sad. Yes. Thank you, Adrian. Yes. There's someone right now in Syria who's being attacked by our sanctions, who survived all the horribleness that was Syria these last couple of years and still is not great at all. And now sanctions, he can't even grow. Horrible. I completely agree with lifting all trade restrictions. However, have we overpriced our goods out of the global market? You know, that's a great question, Jimmy. I'm unsure. The reality of it is we'll have to adjust. And I don't mind. As I said 6 months, right? Because we do want we want our companies to be able to retool and reshift. Because if those things are true, there will be other things that we can do that no one else can do. So we'll have to make a shift in the economy to shift to sell what people want, right, in other countries. And what people want in North Korea will be way different than what people want in, say, Germany. Way different, right? And that's fine. I'm good with that. We have to figure it out. And the glory is we have North Korean population in America. We have Korean population in America, North Korean population in America. They probably know better than anybody else. What do these people want over there? How can we get over there, right? What can we do to make it work? Again, uniting us in helping others. I think it's a good idea. You're correct. All I'm saying is if you give us 6 months, it gives business a time to retool and shift. So bring back unions. I'm not against unions at all, Amy. And people think that I am because I'm a libertarian. I'm not. Unions are literally our First Amendment. They are freedom of speech combined with freedom of association. If people want to collectively bargain, they should. And what so many union people don't realize is the more government steps in, the less unions have value, right? The more we're creating minimum wages, the more we're creating all the benefits, the less unions are required, right? Why bother? The government's already doing it for me. Unions become less and less valuable. In fact, unions wind up becoming a place where 90% of the time is supporting bad apples and 10% is supporting the good apples. That's what winds up happening. So I would actually rather have a situation to where there's no such thing as a union shop or non-union shop. So there's no requirement to join a union. I would prefer that. And I would prefer to where there's multiple unions available for any given industry and or company. So you can pick the union that works best for you and you can negotiate appropriately. And what winds up happening is people say, well, wait a minute, Larry, if we have multiple unions, then that means we'll have different negotiations for different people. Yeah. Maybe your, 50 plus population in your company wants different things than your 20 somethings. So maybe there's 2 separate unions for that. Maybe married people have different, unions than people who are single. I'm making this up for sake of argument, but maybe each of them wants different things and has different needs and requirements. So maybe different unions who negotiate for each group. And as you move through each group, you might even switch a union, right? Maybe when you're single and run around 20 something, you don't care about certain things. And now all of a sudden you're, 35 and you got a family. Well, maybe I care about something else. Your life changes, union changes. So I'm with you. I'm pro union. I prefer my style of union to others, but we'll see. All right. What about trade with nations that utilize slave labor or something similar? Was a trade embargo on South Africa during apartheid just? I would say no, not at all. I would say no. And I hate to say that. I would say no. I would say open it up. Open it up. Because here's what winds up happening. Let's say you allow trade. You just allow trade to South Africa. You just allow it. Go during apartheid. Or country uses slave labor, right? Whatever. You allow it. You trade with, we're now against the Democratic Republic of Congo, if I'm not mistaken. We have either an embargo or sanctions against them. I forgot which one. And I think part of it is because obviously of their human rights issues, but also child soldiers, and South Sudan has child soldiers, all those things. Now that we've cut them off, do they all of a sudden stop slavery? No, they don't. But what if all of a sudden they were, trading with us? What if some of their top warlords decide there's money in trading with America? I'm going to start trading with America. When our companies start coming in, and our companies are now attached to slave labor. We saw this happen already with Nike and the sweatshops and stuff, and we had to make things better for the sweatshops. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. So now, is Nike going to use slave labor? I mean, maybe. I sure hope not, but maybe. And if they do, someone's going to find out. And now we can actually deal with that issue. And now the powerful people in those countries have an actual incentive to not use slave labor. But Larry, slavery is wrong. You're right. And I'd like those slaves to not be slaves. Sanctions, they're still slaves. Non-sanctions, hopefully soon they won't be slaves. So I'm not a fan. I think there are other ways we can make that happen. Absolutely. So, yep. JP, yes. Amen, brother. Yes, absolutely. Prohibition never works. Absolutely true. Yes. I agree, Larry. Let's drop the pretense of moral righteousness in government. We've been giving China top trade status forever, and we don't know how to treat any of their people. Yes. And let me bring this up. You just mentioned earlier about slave labor. This is Andrew brought up slave labor. I mean, if what they're saying is correct, and I believe it to be correct, I mean, I'm open to be proven wrong, but I believe it to be correct. They're basically doing that with their Uyghur population, right? So here are options. Embargo China, right? We'll do that. That'll work. Now they'll all of a sudden love their Uyghurs. No. Or we do what we're doing now. More trade, less embargoes, and all of a sudden Americans have to go back and forth. And some Americans are going to say, great, I love these sneakers you're getting us. Where do you make them? Let me see the factory. Wait a minute. This looks like slave labor. Holy crap. That's going to start to happen. It's already happening. So you can actually begin to change. When the top people are still happy and safe and fine, why would they change? And this is any place in the world, not just China. Why would they change? But when all of a sudden other top people from other nations that now they have to deal with will change. And I'll go back to as crazy as the royal families of Europe, of old Europe, right? In the 1500s, 1400s, they were affected by each other. Not just war, obviously war, but everything from how do you treat your people, what religion are you, do you get married, all those things. Well, the elites of every country affect each other. At one point, they go, stop. Stop. Think about our own Civil War when the South was the slave South. Think about that. When that was happening, the British kind of wanted the South to win. They kind of did. But they couldn't because their people weren't okay with supporting slave states. And if you think I'm making this up, that's actually true. The British were kind of like, it wouldn't be bad if this U.S. broke up. Not a bad deal. Helps us out. Got a South we can get all our cotton from. Makes the North weaker. We're scared of them. 1800s. Not a bad deal. This breakup of America could be a good thing for us. And they didn't do it because the people said, no, you're not going to support a slave state. And they didn't step in. No one stepped in our Civil War. Did you notice that? No one stepped in. Notice like you were there. You were there, Matt, weren't you? Yeah. So no one stepped in. So I think there is some good example of that happening. Look, I know that it feels bad. Righteousness. I get it. I do. But I want actual change. And I bring up all the time, changes conversation, changes connection. It's also respect. So I'm talking about respect. Listen to this. Larry Sharpe here, host of the Sharpe Way show. And boy, do we need to start coming together and healing now more than ever. Best way to do that? Respect. We got to respect each other so we can start to come together. How can we facilitate that? Head over to theadvocates.org/human respect tests. Yes, there's a test for human respect. You didn't think there was? There is. Take that test. About 3 minutes. That's it. It's done. Share it online. Share it on your social media. Let other people see it. Let them take the test. Share it with others. Let's start talking about respect. Let's start talking about healing. Let's find the right answer for us to move forward. Theadvocates.org Human Respect Tests. That guy is right. Absolutely. Listen to what he's saying. So, yes. Let me see if I can keep going on if I can. Let's see. In a dictatorship, a strong middle class is no match for the ruling class and their cronies. What I would say, Keith, is it depends on how strong the middle class is, which is why dictatorships keep middle classes down. Because what winds up happening in a strong middle class is the middle class are the people who wind up filling most of the low-level officer class of any military. And dictatorship is always filled with, always backed by military. In the old days, military was almost always only based upon class, right? Like samurais and knights, barons and such. But in today's world of large armies, most of the backbone of your non-commissioned officer class, much of your low-level officer class are going to come from the middle class. Many of them are. So then your loyalties become different at that point, right? That's what begins to happen. So they're not just from the wealthy class, the wealthy status. Saudi Arabia still is the way you talk about it, though. They really are. Saudi Arabia still, it's usually the royal family that's in their military. But the military is getting bigger. So as a general rule, you find more of those people to start to grow. And as they grow, they simply want more. And you'll wind up having a little bit of movement. So you'll have your old school money, and then some of those people who step into that another level. And as more of those people from the middle and lower classes begin, the nouveau riche begin to pop up, that's when the dictator has problems. You see that now in China, right? In China, as the nouveau riche come into play, the Chinese government creates enemies. Oh, you're an enemy of the state, so I need to put you in prison and take all of your assets. But what winds up happening in China whenever they can, except when we have embargoes and sanctions against China and Russia too, is, and some of you don't know this, I live in New York City, what used to happen, and not as much happens now, but used to happen often, is you have some rich Russian or Chinese oligarch who was afraid of becoming an enemy at one point, to Keith's point, and being put in prison and, whatever, taken care of in any way you think appropriate. What will happen is they would come to America and buy up property. They buy 3 or 4 $10 million apartments. I'm not joking. They buy 3 $10 million apartments in Manhattan, someplace. Then they have a company, a real estate company, take care of the properties. No one's living there. Just 3 $10 million apartments there. They furnish them, keep them there, pay the taxes, pay the maintenance, and move on. Then they have kids, and their kids want to come to high school here or college here, whatever the case may be, and then move the kids here. So the kids come to go to college here. They live in one of those great those mansions. When they become enemies, whatever that is, they now run and flee to America or New York. They flee, and because how American policies work, if you give X amount of millions of dollars to a company, you can emigrate to the United States. That's how that works. So they would give the amount of money required to bribe their way to the United States. That was part of American law. And then they take whatever assets they can keep, they keep. Many of the times they would launder it through art. Art was a very common, online art was a common way of laundering money. If they could do that, they would do it that way. In fact, there were many places in New York City. This is some behind the scenes stuff, guys. Behind the New York City, where you go into a gallery and wonder, how can this gallery possibly exist? No one's ever in here. Well, none of the art's owned by the gallery. Half of the art is owned by oligarchs in Greece or in Belarus or China, whatever. And they're just holding it here, and they're paying a rental fee to keep it here, so that when they come here, they can then sell the art and have cash, because they can't get cash out of the country because the government locks down the cash. So they come here, liquidate their art, sell one of their $10 million apartments. Kids live in one apartment, they live in the other. They're just spending money, and they rebuild. So that was the plan. So even in those cases, when you have a strong middle class that becomes nouveau riche, they then still come to America, and they become the resistance. They become the resistance. And then more people want to come here, and we gain a bunch from that. So even in those cases, it's still better. But you're a valid point. Just still better. Your view on crypto. I think crypto is the future. I think the odds are very high that in the next, 15 years, maybe as a guess, there's going to be an American crypto coin. That's what I think. At one point, we have to reboot the dollar somehow, right? I don't know how we do it. Do we just announce the dollar is worth whatever it's worth? We just announce it and say, take that world? Or do we base it upon a crypto coin? I'm not sure, but I think it's the future. Absolutely. So, when your residents consistently want to leave to go to better places, it forces the government to change. Not in New York, John. Government hasn't changed yet, and we constantly want to leave. God, I wish. Yeah. Anyway, teasing you, of course. Yes. Didn't that economic development leading to democracy storyline end with China? I'm not sure yet. Right? China's new. Right? China is new democracy, if you want to call it that. Right? I'm not. China doesn't have. China has that I can remember. I'm trying to go through my head through my Chinese history. I can't remember a time in China's history. I'm sure if someone knows, please correct me, where China had a democratic country or culture or institutions. I mean, they had a meritocracy that they had, right? They had a meritocracy, which is one of the reasons why doing well in the market that the Chinese can accept that as, moving up and deserving to be moving up. They actually had China had social mobility without democracy and without capitalism. They had based upon taking tests and schooling and getting grades and such. So they do have a culture of meritocracy, but that I can think of no culture of democracy. So the concept of them becoming democratic, I'm not sure. They don't have that culture. Economic development, though, is happening. So people are asking for change in democracy, which is why you now have a strongman, right? You now have the new Xi, who is the guy who's basically emperor for life. He's created that as an attempt to stop what he sees as eventual democracy or democratization of his nation. I think his worry is if you democratize China, you break China up, right? China will break up into several states. Right, the Mongolian side will crack, the Tibetan side will crack, the Uyghur side will crack. I think that's his concern. It's one of the reasons why he's been repopulating. Right, they've been literally moving people into these areas because his worry is the future will be a democratized China. It will crack up into several states. He loves his China and Han Chinese, so he's been moving them into areas as a horrible saying, but as a form of cleansing in his eyes. That's how he sees it. So I'm not sure it's done yet. I don't know if China's done. I mean, China is what? 3,000 years old? Is that right? I don't know if my history is, I think 3,000 years old. So China's old. I mean, if you look at just the river, civilization, it's 5,000 years old. But what you might call Han Chinese after the Warring States period, perhaps. So maybe that's 2,500 years old, 3,000 years old as China, as not a culture. Culture would be 5,000 years, but as any type of state, maybe 3,000 years, give or take 2,500 years in that area. So with no real culture of democracy at all, not even in, like we even at least have the Western culture of Greek democracies, the idea of a Roman Republic, Magna Carta. We have some of that. China don't have any of that I can imagine. If you know, please let me know, but they didn't have none. So that move to democracy, I think, will be harder, like it was for the Japanese, right? The Japanese also, no culture of that. When the Japanese created their first democracy in 1868, God, you guys are pressing my history like there's no tomorrow tonight. I think 1868, the Japanese created their first democracy. That was a failure. Germans, their first democracy, 1919, 1920, failure. Whatever the Chinese are creating now, it's probably going to fail unless we can show them a better way. So I think democracy will still come. It will just take time. That's my view. So, so I keep going. Yep, good point. End tariffs now. Good point. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Absolutely. I think I can't see a better answer for us at all to get things going. So yes. All right, let's see here. Did someone let Larry watch a Como video before he got here? He's pretty worked up. No, I just feel it's important. Yes, right? I feel it's important. I feel like during Trump arena, we were becoming isolationists. I think there's a part of that's true. I think we will, but yes, we went more isolationist than recently for sure with Trump. With another issue. An America First policy is ending all tariffs because we're going to grow from that. An America First policy is ending all sanctions so that we can grow. An America First policy is any trade embargoes so we can trade. So let's have an America First policy and trade. It's what we're good at. I'll say it again. Our culture of freedom is stronger than any bomb we could ever drop, ever. Still stronger. Nuclear bombs, stronger than that. Because nuclear bombs don't create change. They just create devastation. Our culture of freedom creates actual change. Over time, absolutely over time, but it does. So I want to make a difference between isolationism and non-interventionalism. They are two separate things. Isolationism, bad idea. Non-interventionalism, really good idea. How about we don't get involved in fighting other people's civil wars? That's what I want us to do. How about we stop judging people by how bad we think they are and instead let their own people figure out how bad they are? Gandhi said it. People will always prefer their own bad government to the good government of an alien power. Gandhi told us that in the 1920s, 30s, and we didn't listen. And we're still not listening. People prefer their own bad government to the good government of an alien power. So how about we let them have their own government and try to make it not so bad? How about that? We'll do our best to make it not so bad. I like that plan much better. Yes. If you end sanctions, how do you deal with the corrupt government officials in said pariah countries? Government and their cronies will be rich and not civilians. That's now, Keith. That's now. That's not going to happen if we end sanctions. That's now. I'm saying if we end sanctions over time, that should end, and not in every country, and not right away. This is not a panacea cure-all. We end everything, and then a rainbow comes out, and Erdogan steps down and goes, oh, they ended trade sanctions. Now I surrender. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is the best answer we have to get actual change over time to build institutions. Why does trade build institutions? Because trade builds trust, trade builds rules, trade builds regulations and understandings, trade brings up the idea of contract law, courts, all those things that people begin to trust, right, over just the word of the God King, right? So that's why I think it will work eventually. Will it work perfectly? No. Keith, to your point, they're rich now. The civilians are poor now. Some of them are still going to be. But I believe in my heart over time that begins to change. And even if I don't get every country, say we end trade embargoes with 7 countries, and you know what? North Korea still tells us no. Great. But we still get Iran better off, Sudan, Syria, Crimea, Venezuela. That's still a win. I'll take it. We lost North Korea, but we gained the other 5. I'm in. Right now, we lose all of them. So, valid point. I'm with you. I just think it's terrible now. I don't want you to judge my ideas versus perfection, because there is no perfection. I want you to judge my ideas versus status quo. Versus status quo, my ideas are amazing. Versus perfection, meh. But if you find a better one, kick them in, brother. If you got a better plan, I'm in. And I mean that sincerely. People have watched me on this show change my mind. So if you got a better plan, I'm in. The one we got now, not working. Not working. Mine, better. That's what I would say. But not perfect. Better. So, all right. Is there a phone number? Not yet, James. Not yet. Working on it. Larry, should lifting embargoes have strings attached to improve human rights in these countries? No. No. We tried that. Doesn't work. No. Then we got to go back. Then people don't trust it. Then maybe, blah, blah, blah. That's all the kind of posture for stuff. I don't want to posture for stuff. Just trade. Over time, it will be better. That's what I'm telling you. Over time, it will be better. To Keith's point, the rich is still rich, and it won't work for every country, but it's bad now. What we're doing now is we act as if the embargoes are working. Like, yeah, the pressure on Russia is working. No, it isn't. The pressure on North Korea. No, it isn't. The pressure on Cuba. No, it isn't. It's not working now. So We'll just hold strings and then we'll spend, like we did with Saddam Hussein. Remember that? We'll invade and then kind of pull back, but then have a no-fly zone and monitor. And why are we monitoring? I'll go even crazier with this. Why are we monitoring Iran? Why are we monitoring Iran? Well, because they're going to get a nuclear bomb. They might anyway. Eventually they will. What are we going to do? Keep bombing them? Are we going to spend our time, money, and energy bombing Iran or attacking Iran or waiting over Iran for the next 80 years, destroying there's what, 80 million? Is that right? 80 million Iranians? Are we now going to have 80 million Iranians suffering because we're scared of them making a nuclear bomb? Why? What if Iran gets a nuclear bomb? Seriously, what do they do? Okay. Now it's over? You know how many nuclear bombs Russia has? India? Pakistan? Pakistan has nuclear bombs. They're way more dangerous than Iran. Pakistan has them. Israel? France? Britain? They have nuclear bombs. So do us too. So? Well, they might nuke Israel. No, they won't. Israel nuke them first. Stop. It's not going to happen. This is fantasy. The idea of being... And second thing is, why would they make nuclear bombs? For what possible reason? You know why? To stop us from invading them. They work with North Korea. North Korea's got nuclear bombs. Now we can't invade anymore. I have an idea. Never invade and not care. How about that? How about never invade? And then I don't care if you have nuclear bombs. Have 80 of them. Waste your time and money on building and maintaining a nuclear arsenal. You know how expensive that is? You know how happy Japan and Germany are they don't have to build nuclear weapons because we're dumb enough to protect them? Great. They don't want to spend that money on that. That's expensive. You think Germans and Japanese can't build nuclear weapons? Of course they could. They could build an entire nuclear arsenal in 10 years. Of course they could. They don't want to. It's expensive and it's useless except as a deterrent. Well, if you're not worried about an invasion, you don't have to build nuclear weapons. They wouldn't. They would build nuclear power plants. Why don't we trade them stuff? They could build nuclear power plants and we'll trade stuff to them. Done. You know who Iranians hate? Saudis. You know who Saudis hate? Iranians. Why don't we walk away? Yet again, we are in the middle of a Middle East civil war. For what reason? Nothing. It is terrible. So my response to you is no strings attached. Just trade. Things will get better. What we're doing now does not work, hasn't worked, will not work. There's no evidence of it ever working. It doesn't work. So you said it right, Larry. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. Yes. How can I be mad at you if you pick fair business over war? Maybe I'm the crazy one. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Agreed. Pretty rich seeing China chastise itself for human rights. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can keep going here. I have a 40-year-old friend who is as much libertarian as anyone, although he identifies as no party. He run for governor for New York in 10 years. Good. I love it. Please let me know who he is. I'm happy to assist him. Absolutely. Yes. So, all right. So I can do this here. You're late. Pete Clark's national debt numbers. He did that early. It's like the third thing he put up. Third thing up. You're behind you're messing up, Andrew. Pete was on the ball. He was on it way early. Absolutely. Yes. So, I hope we don't bring freedom to Myanmar. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes. How about we leave them alone, Paula? Let's not. Yeah. Freedom usually, when we bring freedom, it comes with guns and bombs and bases and stuff like that. I agree with you. Let's not do that. I'm okay. Buy Doge. I'm with you, bro. We should have bought Doge. I had a friend who was way into Doge years ago, like in 2018, years ago. Like I'm an old man. 2018, maybe 2019, way into Dogecoin. I was like, why are you in a Dogecoin? He said, oh man, it's going to go somewhere. And he was right. So well done. I love that. Yes. All right. Exactly. We were on the wrong side of history in Vietnam. We totally were. Absolutely. Yes. Ho Chi Minh wrote the U.S. begging for help. That's true. JP. Yes, that's true. He wanted Vietnam to be a democracy. We ignored him. So he went to Russia. He went to any place where what Ho Chi Minh cared about was independent Vietnam. That's what he cared about. And that's what he got. He wanted independent Vietnam. That's what he got. He wanted his government to run his people. That's what he wanted. That's what he got. Now, if we had been smart, we could have made him a trading partner and a democracy. But we had to be stupid, and we threw 60,000 Americans into a meat grinder, and who knows how many hundreds of thousands who were wounded when they came back. Terrible. Yes, absolutely. My dad's brother fought in the Vietnam War and said it was absolute hell. Of course. Absolutely. Yes. See, Pete, he did it again for you, Andrew. That's again for you, in case you missed it. He did that for you. Yes. So thank you, Tony V. Absolutely right. Absolutely. Yes. 100%. We also refused to declare war in Vietnam. It was a police action. Shelly, I'm going to ask you guys a trivia question. Does anybody happen to know the last time the United States declared war? 1942. Yes, we declared war against, if I remember right, it was Bulgaria. You guys are killing me in my history tonight. Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary, who were Germany's allies in Europe. We did not declare war against Finland. We only declared war against those three. We never declared war against Finland, which was also a German ally. But we declared war against them in 1942. That was the last time we declared war. We have not declared war since 1942. Yet we've been in perpetual war for the past 80 years. Yes, Shelley. We don't declare war anymore. We just attack people. We just bomb people. That's all we do. Yes. Yes, China and Vietnam do hate each other. Most people don't know that. They fought border wars before there was an America, right? Vietnam and China were fighting border wars before there was an America. For those you don't know, China, the name of China means Middle Kingdom. They have two symbols. One is middle and one is kingdom. Literally, they have the middle. They have the center of the world. That's China's name, is center of the world. So everyone around them is by default a vassal state, which is why the Chinese king wasn't called a king. The Chinese king was called an emperor because he was the emperor, or she of empress, of the world. So the world all was considered vassal states to include Vietnam. Vietnam, as far as China was concerned, was a vassal state, and it had to give tribute and pay and do whatever the emperor said. And if it didn't, well, I'm sending Chinese troops across the border, and we're going to make that pay. And yes, absolutely correct. With many of its neighbors, China has been that way. India, Nepal, many of its neighbors. Absolutely. So, all right. Let's see if I can keep doing this. You couldn't stop the military-industrial complex back then in reference to Vietnam. I know, still to this day. Now we just basically stockpile stuff. Yes, we just stockpile stuff, and we shouldn't. Yes. The Rohingya, yes. For those who don't know, the Rohingya are a group of Muslims in Myanmar, in the southwest part of Myanmar. The government was horribly persecuting. I mean, like, stuff that you would imagine that wouldn't exist in the years, in the 21st century, going into villages and burning them to the ground, walking in with sticks and knives and guns and shooting people, trying to push them across the border into Bangladesh. I mean, it's terrible stuff. Forcing them into the sea, making them go into the sea. I mean, just horrible, horrible stuff. And of course, Suu Kyi, what's her title? State counselor, I think, was her title. They don't have a prime minister in Myanmar. I think the title is, well, now her title is inmate, but her title was, I think, state counselor. The state counselor who represented the government did nothing. In fact, defended the actions because she's afraid of the military. So yes, the Rohingya are, I mean, and the sad part is she got a Nobel Peace Prize. What's it with once you're a Nobel Peace Prize, you start killing people? I don't want one now because I'm going to become a monster. Once you get one, now you become a monster. You bomb people. So, Paul, you're totally right. The Rohingya was a terrible. It really took who she was and made her less of a statesman, less of a person, because of what happened. I don't think the U.S. will get involved with that at all. To be forward, the U.S. should have, and the reason why the U.S. should have gotten involved is, it's going to sound horrible, is because we've spent so much time bombing Muslims since 2001. We have been an anti-Muslim country by default. So supporting, Muslims would have been a good thing. In the 90s, we supported Muslims. We supported Muslims in the Yugoslavian war. Clinton was supporting Muslims in Yugoslavia, right? In the 80s, we were supporting Muslims against the Russians in Afghanistan. So 80s and 90s, we were supporting Muslims. 2000, nope. Not supporting Muslims at all. And then now we haven't. So I think it would have been a great, it sounds horrible, but it would have been good for American, to see us supporting Muslims, and we didn't. I think it was a lost opportunity for us. So yes, thank you for that. All right. So I voted for Trump in 2020 as a protest against Dem mayors and governors and leftist movements. I think a lot of people did, Keith. I wasn't one of them. I threw my vote away for Joe Jorgensen. But I think a lot of people did. In January, I was disappointed by some Trump supporters who wanted Trump to take over the country in a military coup. Exactly my point, Keith. Weak democracy. People don't trust the institutions. Here comes the military, right? When people don't trust institutions, they're okay with the military. Exactly my point from earlier today. Yes. Most Americans have got it made. They don't know what it's like to live under a real tyrannical dictatorship. Also true. Yes. And Burma shows us what a real coup is like. Yep. And Turkey shows us how you have to put down a real coup, right? Those two are modern versions of what it's really like. Real coups are about arresting people, right? Putting certain people in jail, grabbing them, all those things. That's not going to happen here. We're not there yet. I know some people think, oh, it's going to come, and it's not coming. That's not what's happening. I know some of you are upset when I say it, but that's not coming now at all. We are not there yet. We're not there yet. We're still years from that happening, if ever, and I hope never. So, all right, see if I can keep going this. We have long escalated protests to violence in other countries. We have seen a year full of escalated protests, including January 6th. Are we supposed to be someone to think that we're not reaping what we have sown on our soil now? No, you're right, Sheldon. It's a very valid point. Kind of what I was talking about. Yeah, absolutely. You're totally correct. I love being in history class. We can learn from history. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to bore you though either, right? I try to, when you ask the questions, I try to give you an interesting piece of how it connects, but I don't want to bore you either. So I'm glad you guys are paying attention. So thank you. Turkey is used to having strong authoritarian leaders since the time of the Ottoman Empire. Yes, exactly right. And that was my point about Kemal Mustafa Kemal. Yes, Mustafa Kemal was my point about him, is even he was a heavy-handed authoritarian. I mean, he built something that, considering what he had, was amazing, right? When you consider what he had, it was amazing, but he was still an authoritarian. He was still a military guy. He was still all about killing Greeks and killing Armenians. So he was still about all about that. But relative. It was better, relative. Yes. We must engage in diplomacy, reassure our allies, build their influence in Asia. We left Ukraine standing alone. We can do it again. Yes, we left Ukraine standing alone, with the Kurds standing alone. Yeah, we did. A bunch of people standing alone. I agree. Yes. So people need to quit being hypersensitive and mostly quit finding things to be angry or hateful about. Amy, it's hard. I agree with you. I think you're right. What I'm saying is it's difficult. It's difficult when you feel like you're not being heard. It's difficult when you feel like people don't respect you. It's hard. It's hard when you're lonely, when you feel like you're not getting what you deserve. It is hard, right? It's difficult. You're right, and it's hard. Imagine if you're, and look back to 2009 and then now 2020 and 21. 2009, when the crash hit, I mean, men were devastated, women too, but men far more, particularly wealthier, more educated white men. They were devastated, right, in 2009. They were hurt badly. And now you look at the suburbs, they were crushed. And there was nothing, no one was helping them. No one cared about them. They heard nothing. So whenever they hear someone go, oh, we're going to put money to a city, they go, what about me? What about me? And they start feeling bad. It's hard. And now you're going to see the same with women. This COVID crash that came from the government lockdowns, this is hurting women far more than men. You're going to have women who are going to be stuck outside of the workforce for at least 2 years, if not 3 or 4. In today's world, you lose 3 years out of your field. My God, look what's changed. Look what you've missed. Women are already trying to get that wealth gap. And now you just made it harder for them to do this. They're going to stop feeling terrible too. I'm with you. I'm just saying you're asking a lot when people feel their livelihoods and their lives are being affected and they feel like no one's hearing them, like no one's getting it, right? When nobody's getting it, when nothing changes, even though you voted, when nothing changes, even though you protested, when nothing changes, even though you fought with your cousin online, nothing changes. Hard, Amy. Again, you're right. I'm just saying you're asking a lot when people feel like there's nothing there and yelling is all they can do. And holding on to whatever they got is the last thing that they can do. And I feel like a lot of us are there. So thank you for that, by the way. All right. To really unite, we must be willing to acknowledge the flaws in our own ideologies and not just the others. Kendall, on the money, yes. We got to realize we're human. We're human, right? When Keith was telling me about my plan, it may not work in certain areas. He's right. My plan isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. It'd be nice if I was. I'm not. And I'm open to being wrong. But I'm telling you, we have to agree, and I hope you and I are on the same page, Kendall. We have to agree to the same outcome, right? We want the same outcome, as I hope we do, which is everybody being better. I hope we want that. And if we agree on the same outcome, let's figure out how to get there. Let's figure out how do we get there. That's what I want us to do. Yes, I agree with you. We have to be able to say, you know what? Maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I'm not always right. Right? I mean, I am super handsome. But besides that, I mean, that's the only thing. But I'm not always right. But I'm always looking for the right. I'm always looking for the right outcome. Right? The right outcome. I'm not looking for the perfect plan. And here's something that a lot of people do not get at all. But I'm telling you guys, if you hear me, this is really true. I would rather have a mediocre plan executed by people who really care about the same outcome than a really great plan executed by people who don't care. Because if you really want this, if you and I want the same outcome, and I come up with a plan, and you go, Larry, your plan, meh, it's okay. I'm not jumping up and down. But you and I get together and we start executing it, then we start going, see, here's the fault. Let's tweak this. See right here. Here's the problem. Let's change this. And that plan goes from a mediocre plan to an amazing plan. If you and I are on board melding this thing and molding this thing to make it better, we'll have a better plan. Absolutely. The virtual signaling during the Super Bowl triggered my gag reflex. I know it was bad. I know it really was. I was like, oh, I had to pause it I was like, oh my God. It was like, it was bad, but I get why they did it. Just, yeah, absolutely. As far as Burma/Myanmar goes, roll back the Neutrality Act. If Americans want to go and defend the people of Myanmar for an oppressive military dictatorship, they should be allowed to do so. I agree. We did it during World War I, right? There was actually a movie about it. Brad Pitt, Legends of the Fall. Thank you. Yes. Brad Pitt, and I forgot the other actors. Anthony Hopkins, I think, is in it too. I think they were in either North Dakota or Montana in a farm or ranch in that area. And it's during World War I. And America wasn't in the war yet. It was 1914, 1915. And the Brits are fighting the Germans. And they're like, we have to stop the Germans, right? They're bad. They're crushing Europe. So they literally crossed the border into Canada. And they joined the British forces as Canadians. They joined the Canadian forces by crossing over. And they fight in World War I because they cared, which is fine. Right? If you care, I agree with you, David. If you care about that and you went ahead and over there, go ahead. 100%. You own your life. You must find purpose as you see fit. And if you think the purpose is going there and fighting in Myanmar, go on with your bad self. Do what you think is appropriate in your life to find your happiness in your way. I'm all about it. All about it. I agree. Yes. So, all right. See if I can go here. Bruce is Catholic, so I don't feel the commercial was insincere. Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't realize that. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Just was not a great commercial, but I still liked what he was trying to do. Great shot of the cross. Yeah. Look, if you're trying to make things better, I'm in. Yes. What are your solutions to fix the division in this country between the left-wing politics and right-wing politics? The answer is third party, Nassim. That's the answer. The answer is a show like this, and I hope 1,000 more like this. This is not doing it by itself. I wish it was. 1,000 more like this, where people can actually have a conversation. And the idea is, as you just heard me say, Nazim, you own your own life. You own it. Not me. You do. You have to find happiness in the way you think is the right answer, even if you're wrong. And we have to have systems in this country that allow people to fall down and get back up. We don't have that now. We don't have a justice system. We have a punishment system. We don't have any system that actually makes it easier for people to get back up when they fall down. And we should have that. We want to be really tough on systems and much more easier on individuals, except some of them, the bad ones. And there's a couple. but far fewer than we would imagine. Better systems equals better opportunities, which equals better people. It's just how it works. So if we start thinking that way and stop thinking about, I want to control you, and instead, as you hear me say all the time, if you watch the show at all, you should be able to be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force your view on others. If that's how you feel, man, I'm in. We can do this. And that's on a philosophical level. Now on an actual physical level, how do we actually do it? What someone mentioned earlier. I think David might have mentioned it. More libertarians. I'm very serious. Imagine right now, Nassim, right now, if there were only 3 libertarians in the Senate. Only 3. Just 3. Not 100, 3. We would be the swing vote. We'd run the Senate. But why would that matter? Because right now in America, if you are a Democrat and you cross the aisle, talk to the Republicans, you are primaried and you're out. Why would you? If you're a Republican, you cross the aisle to the Democrats, you are primaried, you're out. You're in trouble. You're in trouble if you ever get off of what the party tells you. You can't cross the aisle. The enemy is evil. You can't even talk to them anymore. Libertarians aren't like that. And I'll give you 2 examples. One, when I ran for governor. When I ran for governor, there were only 7,000 registered libertarians in New York State. I got over 100,000 votes. That's a lot of Democrats, Republicans voted for me. Democrats don't want to vote for Republicans. Republicans don't want to vote for Democrats. But they'll both vote for libertarians. Next, last year, death of George Floyd. George Floyd dies. The left yells, defund the police. The right yells, back the blue. No change. Who did want change? The only one libertarian congressman we had back then, and that was Justin Amash. Justin Amash said, let's try to solve something. That's what he said. He said, how about an idea? We start with this. We'll start with ending qualified immunity. Made a short bill, if it was 9 pages long. Short bill. Hey, let's move this forward. He's one guy. He can't move it forward. What does he do? He crosses both sides. He goes Democrats, Republicans, and says, are you guys on board? And a bunch of them do get on board. He creates the first tripartisan bill to solve an actual problem, not just to use it as another wedge issue to fight and yell at each other. Now, of course, the Democrats and the Republicans didn't want to do anything. Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi were like, we're not voting on that. Bye. Get out of here. They didn't want to fix anything. They had no desire to fix anything. Why would they? Now they can yell back the blue, or they can yell defund the police, and the other is still evil. But libertarians actually try to solve something. So I gave you philosophy, and then I gave you actual something happening as early as last year. That's how you fix things. But not just that. If you look at any of my policies, people always ask me how to fix things. I give them actual answers. Here's how the average Democrat Republican answers the question. How are you going to fix the left or right problem? You just got to have truth and honesty. How? By having truth and honesty. But then what do? Just talk truth and honesty. That's it. There's no solution. There's no answer. That's how we fix it. I hope I answered your question. So I'm reading about the history of Italy from the unification in the 1860s through post-World War II. Seems like Italy always remained very fractionalized despite best efforts to unite. Do you have any lessons from Italy that we can learn from? Yes. Again, absolutely. Even Italy, right? Italy, I think, was it 1870 they officially became a country? I think they officially. Germany became a country in 1871. I think Italy was 1870. Might be 71 also, but I think 1870, Italy was officially a country. They were unifying through the 1860s, but I think they officially became a country, I think 1870, if history serves. Of course we can, right? And the advantage of learning Italian history is what was the strength? City-states. Commerce. Is that what I talked about? Commerce made Italy valuable even when it wasn't a country. They did have localizations, what made it valuable even though it wasn't a country, right? That was an issue. What got them together? They were trading, right? They had a history of being together as the Roman Empire. Clearly, they had a history of that. They had a common language, right? Even though people in the South speak a different dialect of the North, it's still the same language, right? It's like, we speak different in the South and in the North here in America. Still the same language. So I think you do have that, right? You do have that. But what the Italians had, which is a little bit different, the Italians still had a culture of both democracy and meritocracy. That's what they had a culture of, right? Democracy, of course, from the ancient Roman Empire's republic, which is still in their history. But two, all the city-states that were all over Italy, from Syracuse to Milan to Genoa, all the city-states, they were meritocracies, right? Meaning if you made enough cash, you began to move up, even though there were obviously houses and families that were powerful. Medici, is that right? The Medici family, all those different types. Of course, you could still move up. So they had a history of meritocracy and a history of commerce and a history of democracy. So I think that's how they were able to make that peace. Even now, Italians, they fight each other. I mean, even now they do, but still, they're a united country. I hope that was helpful. All right. And I think it was 1870. Someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong. So we need more USA companies making more American goods and put people back to work. I don't care if they have to pay more for the Made in USA label. I mean, this is a cultural issue, and I bring this up often. This goes back to what someone talked about when it came to, Chinese doing bad things, right? That kind of stuff, right? Yes. If we as Americans, and the example I give is here in New York State, I don't know if it's still true since the COVID lockdowns, but prior to the lockdowns, New York State had in the last couple of years kind of loosened regulations on brewing. So that meant that there were a bunch of course, new breweries throughout all of New York State, wineries, breweries, the whole deal. A lot of people will go into a local bar and knowingly and willingly pay an extra $1 or sometimes even $2 for a locally, brewed beer. They wanted that beer. They wanted to buy locally. They cared about it. They liked it taste better. They knew the guys who ran it, whatever. And they were doing it voluntarily, happily paying the extra $1 for a beer. No worries. No rules, no laws, people doing it. Why? Because they saw the value in it. If we were more transparent, and Amy, we're not transparent. If we were more transparent about what's happening in China and letting people know, this is what's happening. Do you want your cheap crayons? Okay. Do you care that that's what's happening in China right now, what they're doing right now, how it's working, what they're doing, how it's hurting American companies? Are you prepared to pay 25 cents more for a pack of crayons or not? If you go, no, you know what, Amy? We get what we deserve. That's how it works. We don't care. Put American workers out. I want my pack of crayons for my kid for school cheaper. Or do you go, you know what? No, I'm going to pay 25 cents more because I'm a body American company. And that's about us and culturally making that happen. And if we do that, there's no need for an embargo. There's no need for sanctions. Americans will just, in our communities, go, don't buy that product. That comes from those evil Turkey people who are doing this bad thing. And when the Turks see they have a market here and they can't sell because they're doing the bad thing, they'll stop doing the bad thing. Over time, not tomorrow, over time, because competitors will start doing it anyway. And they'll stop. So I think you're correct, but that's not a legal thing. That's a cultural thing that we have to work on. We don't have that culture right now in many cases, and we also don't have transparency. So yes. Oregon decriminalized all drug use. What's your take? Well done. Well done. Let's see how that works. Well done. The only problem is when they do it, is the system prepared to handle it? Are communities prepared to handle it? This is the reason why I liked in New York State starting with decriminalizing cannabis, because then the communities can be able to fix this. The problem that we're going to have, and I talk about this often, is that whenever you add government, you remove community by default. So when we have the government fix everything, communities literally over time don't have the institutional knowledge to deal with things, deal with problems. They don't have the institutional knowledge. And we see it now with COVID, right? With the COVID response, think of all the people who are stuck at home teaching kids. The institutional knowledge in the communities don't exist. There are so few. It used to be there was always a school at the local church or a school at the local this, or some people used to would do homeschooling for their kids. That knowledge is gone for a lot of people. The state took over all the curriculum. The state took over everything. So now when the state's not there, we struggle because community isn't prepared to pick up the slack. People need services. People need help. I just think communities generally better at it when they're prepared for it. The thing I liked about my plan when I ran for governor to do cannabis first is as we start seeing the drug scene change, communities can begin to get back and play to absorb that. And that's what I wanted. My worry about Oregon is maybe the communities aren't prepared for the damages that are going to come soon. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that answers your question. So, all right. I recently spent several hours with a thoughtful and intelligent acquaintance who is ideologically and politically far different than me, and we endeavored to listen to each other and try to identify a way forward with our polarized politics. We came away with, for left, right, and everyone else, is to possibly unite around is anti-authoritarianism, I like that, decentralization of existing power structures, and localization of efforts. Win, win, win. Absolutely. The issue, as I was just mentioning with Eric, is how do we do that? All right. Government's always two things, a monopoly and a jobs program. Well, I like anti-authoritarianism. I like that. I like decentralization. I like localization of effort. Love that. All awesome. Are communities prepared to make that happen? I would argue right now, probably not. So the first thing we do is we know that it's a monopoly and a jobs program. Create that community, open up that community idea to let people begin to come from this to there and other areas into there, and to get the communities going and being able to service people effectively. As that begins to happen, we won't need government anymore, and we can pull it away. I think that's the answer. But I get what you're saying. It's nice. I like that. Yes. All right. Arms embargo, travel restrictions, sanctions against Democratic Republic of Congo. The sanctions include an arms embargo, travel restrictions, and the freezing of assets of the persons and bodies listed by the UN Sanctions Committee concerning Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. Yeah, and hasn't stopped the DRC from being a disaster for I don't know how long. How long has this been a disaster? What's the capital city's been attacked how many times? Capital city of DRC is Kinshasa? Is that right? Kinshasa, I think that's correct. Southwest part of the DRC. I think that's right. Kinshasa. I think that's right. Anyway, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, and how does it, is all of a sudden it better? Are there, less blood diamonds? No, we need to just make this work. Nike still uses slave labor in other countries, but it's okay because they kneel for the anthem. Oh, so yeah, you're right. Totally fine. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, look, and this goes to the point that that Amy was talking about, right? If Americans are okay with buying slave labor products, then we get what we pay for, don't we? At one point, we have to make a decision. Am I prepared to not have my Nikes if they're slave labor or not? Or am I getting my Nikes no matter what? I don't care. This is the responsibility we have to take, right? This is the long-term way of saying I'm not okay with it. Or you are. Either way. Or you are. Either one. So, all right. Let's see. What if they could trade with us, but we choose not to because of the price? Yes, thank you. Then those countries losing out of money is on them, not us for sanctioning them. Thank you, Matt. My point perfectly. Matt makes my point. Well done, Matt. Matt makes my point. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I think I covered the slave labor piece already. I don't think it works at all. I think instead we as individuals have to make the changes so that we can allow companies in those states, in those areas, to change their policies, right? If one company uses slave labor, the other company doesn't, if we, to Sam's point, go, I don't care, I want my Nikes, slave or no slave, then it doesn't work. And then why would the nation do it if me and you, Steve, are like, fine, slave labor, do it, we don't care. Why should our government stop us? I'm being very forward. Why should they? If Americans are okay buying slave labor stuff, why should the government stop us? It's a serious question. But if we're not, then you and I should not buy it. And then when the other company in China, insert country here, wherever, Zimbabwe, DRC, creates a product that doesn't have slave labor or child soldiers, and we decide to buy that, they go, oh, that's how you get people to buy your stuff? Yeah, no slaves. That's how you get people to buy your stuff. And the slaves, and we buy your stuff. That happens. To be clear, I'm going to go back to my point with Keith. This is not 5 minutes. This is not even a year. This is a decade. But a decade that will make things better versus 70 years of virtually no change. I'll take a decade making things better. Yes. So, all right. Let's see if I can keep going. Let's see here. Exactly. Christine's the exact same thing. Yes. Lift sanctions, but boycott consumer level. Yes. 100% Christine. Yes. Absolutely. Larry, wouldn't trading with those countries that have semi-slave labor solidify the people on top, because those on top own the businesses that you'll be trading to? They're already there. That's my point. Yes, and you're right. They're already there. They're already solid. The advantage is to Christine's point, to the other people who just talked about this, if we as consumers choose the right companies, or don't buy from China, but buy from Vietnam instead, because the Vietnamese don't use as much slave labor as the Chinese do, the Chinese will see there as an opening. If we embargo them, there's no opportunity for them to get money from us. None. We're embargoed. They're not going to get any money from us. So why change your policies? Even if you do, we still can't buy or sell. So why change policies? But if it's just the consumer going, those Nikes made in China, I won't buy, but the ones in Vietnam, I will, sake of argument. I have no idea if that's true. That was just sake of argument. Then the Chinese will have to stop picking up some of the Vietnamese policies so that we can now buy from them. Now, if it's semi-slave labor, that's for us to think about. What's the alternative? And it sounds horrible, I know. But some people would argue that you've got to move from semi-slave labor into a safe labor market. Now, if you have more people making more money, then they can unionize. To Amy's point, they can unionize. And they can unionize and now make more money. And if we care about unions, as Amy said, then why don't you only... Remember the story, the commercial, for you guys old enough, look for the union label, right? So only buy union stuff. Maybe we do that, right? We start with the semi-slave labor. I can't say slave labor. Semi-slave labor. They make enough money to start unionizing. Now they have their own unions in whatever, China, Vietnam, whatever is the country we're talking about, Zimbabwe, insert country here. And then me and you, Tony, Christine, Amy, we say, I'm not buying my Nikes unless they got a union sticker on them. And I know it's true because transparency. And the government, instead of embargoing, takes some money to make sure that when they put the stamp that says union, it's really union and not just something they made up. I like that much better. But again, the people on top, they're already on top. And people, this isn't going to work in every country. I wish it would. It's not going to work every single time. I wish it would, but it won't. Took the respect test, respectful, 100%. Thank you, Nazim. I love that. Awesome. Me too, by the way. Yes, absolutely. 100%. All right. Sharpe Cohen 2024, real talk. Thank you, Recipes. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Yes. But as I said before, odds of me running for president, I think slim, unless I get super popular. I'm hoping for someone to be super popular. That's what I really want. Someone to be super popular. And then maybe I'll jump on the, other side of that ticket. Maybe I'll be the VP spot. I want impact in 2024. We did not get enough impact at all in 2016, nothing in 2020. So I want to make sure we get some impact in 2024. If I become the super popular guy, then I would consider running in 2024. If I'm not, let the super popular guy run. I'll be the VP to support the super popular guy or gal. Totally happy if it's a gal too, but I want impact because I absolutely want us to be able to have impact so that the down ticket is able to grow the next year like there's no tomorrow. That's what I want. I really want that to happen. So I hope that was clear. All right, let's see here. Yep, art galleries have that history to them. Yes, been to a storehouse filled with classical pieces of art in New Jersey. The old classmate friend working there had keys to was really cool to see all of it. Yes, art is real estate for the super wealthy is a very easy way to launder your money or get your money out of your country. Art is for like the middle wealthy, if that makes any sense. If you can afford to buy several $10 million homes, well, you don't need the art. You can, but you'll instead buy real estate. You'll buy buildings. You'll buy stuff that you have no intention of living in. It's just a way of keeping your money outside your country. So you then go to that country, sell it off, and you basically you've laundered your money into another country, moved it out. Art is much easier also because then you can buy your art online. So you're purchasing the art online using the currency of your own country, which is legal, but now you keep the physical asset in the other country. Right, that's how that works, by the way. Right, so you buy the art. You're Greek or you're Bulgarian or you're from Belarus, Polish, whatever. You have money, a bunch of money. Your money isn't very valuable outside of your country. Maybe you're having trouble. Maybe Spanish. You're worried about your economy, whatever it is. So you take your money and you buy online a bunch of art. You leave it in an art gallery, and you pay a monthly fee. That's like your banking fee, but you bought it, and now you have maybe $1 million worth of art sitting there, and you pay $2,000 a month to hold it, $1,000 a month to hold it there, right? Which is fine. You have $1 million there. You're fine. So you leave a year or two later. Well, the country won't let you take your money out of the bank. They'll make you keep your money there because you're a criminal. So you leave, come to America, and then sell your stuff. There's your money. That's how you get your money out. So it's a common way of people laundering their money. So, all right, see if I can keep doing this. Much respect from For the People Radio 101.com. Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Was I on that show? I don't know if I was. You should let me know if I wasn't. So, yes. So, all right. Aren't there two Chinas, the military power class and the growing middle class? Yes, and the middle class is getting stronger. And sadly, they have what is over 100 million men surplus over women now because of their glorious one-child policy. What are you going to do with all those angry men with nothing to lose? Not a place I want to be in. Not a place I want to be in. Absolutely. Yes. So, all right. See if I can keep going down here if I can. Sweatshops aren't optimal, but to me isn't any better to put someone in further poverty to help them. It's which is why I'm saying that's semi-slave part, which is horrible to even think about. But it may be a way to move into that next level. It depends upon the country you're in. And we as Americans have to decide, is it worth it or not? Do we believe it is or isn't? It's what we have to decide. It's your money, Jonathan. How do you feel about it? You're going to have to spend it or not, right? That's the issue. Absolutely. So Vietnam has semi-slave. I know Vietnam is not the best, but I think Vietnam doesn't have prison labor. I'm not sure on that one. I know China has prison labor. I think Vietnam does not have prison labor anywhere near to the level that Chinese do. I think that's true. So I guess relatively it would be better. I don't know. So maybe, I'm not sure. Amash 2024. I'm in. Let Amash run. I'm in. I'm happy to be his VP if he wants me. Happy to make that happen. Absolutely. Yes. So, well, who was a super popular libertarian? I don't know. We'll see. We still got 3 years to figure that out. We got time. We'll figure it out. Absolutely. Yes. 6 months ago, I said I'd only buying low craft beers. Yes. John, thank you. Yes. 100%. Yes. Between guests and myself, we go through a lot of beer. My reason, the big companies like Budweiser and Miller began buying more barley and hops than they needed to increase the price on small breweries. Ooh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's kind of cheesy, man. Oh, it's horrible. Budweiser and Miller free for 6 months now. Good on you, man. I like local. I do. I like local. Absolutely. Yes. So, win New York governor and leave early as VP. No. Here's what I promise you. If I run for governor and if I win the governorship, I will not leave for 8 years. That's what I promise. I'll do 8 years to put New York on the right track. And then hopefully I've trained enough people that this becomes a cultural issue for New York. No, I will stay. And if we fix New York, the least free state in the union, ranked more than once by Cato, we fix New York, we fix everything. We fix everything. So, no, it's fine. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, all right, let's see. I love the impact of your idea with 1 or 2 states. Yes, that was my whole point. That's what I want. Absolutely. Yes, that's what I want. So, all right, see if I can do this here. All right, let's see here. If I can grab this here. The United States is the most prison labor. No? Interesting point. I think that may actually be true. I'm unsure of that, Shelley. It's a great point. That may be true. But our prisoners are paid. I don't think the Chinese people are paid. I don't think so. Not that I mean, it's like 40 cents an hour. It's something horrible like that. I mean, it's horrible labor. That's our prison system is semi-slave labor, right? That's what our prison system is. I'm not sure if the Chinese have anything or they're just straight slaves. I don't know if they get paid anything or not. Not that it's much better, but it's something I guess. So, Eric, thanks for your opinion. I believe Oregon's decriminalization of drug possession is the way to go nationally. Yes, I agree. Yes, I think it is. I just want us to be ready for it, right? I want us to be ready for it. We are wasting too much money jailing people who are sick. I hope you support it. Of course I would, dude. I'm a libertarian. 100%. 100%. The issue is most New Yorkers right now, I'm not sure we could get a total decriminalization. And my governor would never do that. He has to make sure his cronies get all the money. If his cronies get all the money, then he'll legalize it. He will never decrim. He'll just legalize it to where there'll still be a black market so the cops can still arrest people. He just want to stop that. He's happy with arresting them. And he wants to make sure his cronies get everything. So while I agree with you, I've got to look at what New York can do realistically. And I think New York could do a regulate like onions, which was my title for cannabis. Then they could, right? I think cannabis is the issue. And speaking of cannabis, if I could, please watch this. Larry Sharpe, host of the Sharpe Way here. Look, are you dealing with some anxiety, some stress, maybe some pain from hustling during this tough time? If you think a CBD product might help you relieve some of that anxiety or pain, head on over to grownselection.com. Check them out. High quality, top rated, libertarian owned. Looking for creams, powders, oils, whatever is going to make your health better. Check them out. Make a purchase. Put in Sharpe Way 20. Get 20% off. They're our sponsor. Support us. Support your health. grownselection.com. Yet again, that guy's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, let me keep going down here if I can. Hi, Larry. Nothing to add. Just saying, hey, and gave you a thumbs up for your good looks. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Absolutely. I do appreciate that. Yes. Let's see here. Do you think we'll ever have a Congress term limits? I think this will help with healing the divisiveness and actually get things done, like more power to people. No, I don't. At least not in the next, I don't know, decade or two at least. At least. And the reason is they have to vote for their own term limits. So why would they? Right? It's easier for the Congress to vote for a president to get term limit out because they all want to be the president. So they'll easily vote that. But for them to vote themselves out, I don't see it happening. They still believe that they are critically important and so critical. And no, I don't see them happening at all. I don't. Yes. So if a libertarian president / senator or somebody gets elected, can we expect the media to give them the same treatment as Trump? No, not at all. Expect them to ignore them. Ignore them. And Justin Amash was the example of that. Expect them to be ignored, kicked to the curb, thought of as not important, right? None of those things, right? Expect, none of that. Expect them to just ignore them completely. Treat them like they're just terrible. So yes. All right. Will you run against Cuomo again? I voted for you and was hoping you'd win. Thank you. You're far better than what New York has now. Yes, I will announce. Absolutely. I will announce in summer whether I will or won't. So yes. Would you end private companies controlling prisons? Here in Northeast PA, there was a scandal called Kids for Cash. It was being paid off. Yeah. New York State doesn't have private prisons. We don't have this in New York State. We have a corporatized prison system. A little bit different. What New York has, well, let me cover both of those. First, New York. New York has a system to where the companies are able to use prison semi-slave labor to get things done and to make money in commissary and stuff like that. So we've corporatized our prison system, but they're not private. It's a little bit different system. It's still bad, but it's just different than the private companies. You don't want private prisons with one exception. The reason why private companies don't work as private prisons is because they're given money to house people. The incentive is completely wrong. Could you have a private prison system? Possible, but you'd have to have it in this way. You'd have to have a bicameral or bifurcated prison system. One for those people who you believe are either very violent or hard time to get out or some multiple offenders, something like that, some criteria. I'm actually unsure what that criteria would be. It could have been in theory, it could even be a mental evaluation, something like that, right? Whatever the case may be. And that prison system could be run by the state. But there could be a private prison system for those people who are not of the bad type, however we define bad in my fictitious scenario. And those private prisons, those people are given money for success. So you don't pay them at all. It's free. But they only get paid if the individual gets a success. And the success will be decided, in theory, by a judge on sentencing. So does the person get a job, get a college degree, high school diploma, start a business, insert thing, create an amount of money, get an apartment, whatever is that thing? If the prison ensures that happens, the prison then gets paid. Well, Larry, why would they? What? Yes, that is how literally right now we have an industry that does that. It's the recruiting industry. The recruiting industry only gets paid if they get you a job. Then they get paid. We could have a prison system if that was the incentive, meaning we're not paying them any money unless they are successful at rehabilitating. And that I haven't fleshed out what that actually means, if that makes any sense. I don't know the details of that. But conceptually, there would be two separate types: the prison, the hardcore, the non-hardcore. That part is somehow given money, assuming they achieve certain goals. Could be a college degree, doesn't have to be. Could be a combination, could be a high school diploma if the kid doesn't have a high school diploma. Could be getting a job, could be starting a business, insert thing here. Could be pass the test, whatever. I think that way you could have a private companies in prison. Otherwise, you just can't. It doesn't work. There's no way it would work. And you have what you had, kids for cash. I know that's how it works. So you can't have that. So I hope that was clear. So yes, Ataturk. Yes, thank you. Ataturk. Yes, thank you. All right. Let's see if I can keep going down this road here. All right. Have you noticed the recent trends of states where marijuana was legalized first and are legalizing other substances at the beginning of the year? Yeah, it's trying to make more cash, right? It was a cash grab. It's a money grab. They actually don't care about the humans. They care about the taxes. They want the money because they're all broke. But I'm happy it's happening. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's because of that. That's the issue. Yes. That's the issue right there. Absolutely. So, all right. Let's see here. A pet rock could be better than Cuomo. I like that. Yes. Support your local libertarians to heal our nation. I like that, Josh. Look at you. That's amazing. Yes, I love that. 100%. That's why Justin Amash was exiled by his voters in Michigan. Ouch. Ouch. I don't know. All right. I feel bad about that already, just even saying that. It seems terrible. So, all right. So let me grab a couple more. You guys give me so many. I really appreciate it. Yes, the 19th century Italian city-states had a common culture based on some very core fundamental values and beliefs. What happens when they don't have that? For example, what happens when two sides can agree on the means to an end mattering, or that principled action is worthwhile value? I bring up these two issues because that's what the other side is arguing against explicitly in places like Discord servers and on multi-million subscription channels, not because I'm straw manning. I think you're right. I'm not fighting you at all. I think you're totally correct. We do have to start, finding a common ground so we can go through. Yes. Yes, Kinshasa. Thank you. Kinshasa, not King Sasha, Kinshasa. Thank you, Paula. I can't remember all the capitals. I wish I could, but I was close. I get like A for effort or something. Yes, there we go. So I appreciate that. Yes. Let's see if I can do this. They did a study at Texas Tech and found that people who were deprived of sweatshop jobs wound up in subsistence farming and were worse off. This is an argument, right? That people get. We have to decide what matters for us, right? If you want to stop buying, you can. But at the same time, they have to grow too, right? They have to decide how they're going to grow as a nation. Some of them are in real trouble. And sometimes a bad job is better than no job. Depends upon how you look at it and what's your alternative, right? You have to be honest with yourself. What is your alternative, right? If you've decided that, hey, I'm a kid and my family's in trouble and I'm going to go work at a fast food place, busting my rump for minimum wage, and you might go, that's a terrible job. Yeah, but if your family's suffering, what's your option? Right? So you take the job you get, you make the best of it and try to get better and better yourself. I think many Americans have done that a bazillion times all the time. When I was young in the Bronx, trying to get out of Bronx, my mom and I used to, and my whole family, everybody who's in my family, we would clean office buildings and clean houses to make extra cash. It's a crappy job. Who wants to clean other people's messes? But we did it because we wanted to make enough money to move out of the Bronx, and we did. So, yeah, was it great? And I was child labor at the time. I was a kid. I was like 8. Yeah, and I'm moving buses around and doing I was working, cleaning office buildings in people's houses. My mom was telling me what to do, and I was following her around at 8 years old. That's child labor, sweatshop, but whatever, right? It was what I needed to get out of my situation. I'm happy I did it. I'm not ashamed. I tell people that we did it. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm happy that we did it. I'm happy that we were able to bust our rumps and get out of our bad situation. Absolutely. We moved to Long Island, moving on up to Jefferson's. Watch out. So yes, absolutely. Thanks for the interesting topic. Checking it from YouTube. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. So I'm still voting for Larry. The city supports him, and they don't vote Republican. Yep, there we go. There's already a Republican that's going to run against Cuomo. So there's always one. There's some sacrificial lamb they'll throw up who will get his butt kicked, who has no chance of victory whatsoever, who will lie to New Yorkers and say, we can beat Cuomo. It will be a total lie. The Republicans will absolutely lie to New Yorkers like they've done for the past 20 years. Republicans haven't won a statewide election in this state in 20 years. And the state's not getting redder. It's getting bluer. So, Tammy, I get it. And the Republicans have to run somebody. I get it. It is a complete and total waste of time, money, and energy. But they'll do it, and they'll lie to their constituents. And sadly, a bunch of people are going to believe that lie again because they're desperate. I hope they don't. So, yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys, I'll say thank you so much for today. I appreciate all the time you gave me, all the back and forth. I love the AMAs. I'm glad we do them. I hope you enjoy them. I hope I wasn't too boring with my history lessons. Thank you guys for some fact checking. Thank you. Appreciate the fact checking you guys did for me. I do appreciate that. I don't have time. I can't check online. I've got to go from my memory while we're doing this. So I appreciate the fact checking. Really, I do. It's amazing. And thank you for all the time and energy you guys put on this. I will see you guys all tomorrow.